today's video we're going to be covering another episode on my Gaia project build in Minecraft. Today we are going to be covering the research board. Now the research board has a lot of purposes. It has this track for you to count your VP as the game goes on, the special actions for power QIC, the standard tactiles, the research columns, and then the advanced tactile systems. We covered the advanced tactile dispensation system in the last video. However, it was bigger in this build than it would be in the real life Gaia project because it's harder to build in Minecraft. So we'll be covering a lot more in this video, starting with the VP track. In the real life track, the numbers are gray, and every 5 numbers it has a white number, so that's what I've done with stone and pale oak pressure plates, as well as making the corners bigger. And to distinguish between each individual spot, I have alternated between brown mushroom blocks and stripped spruce wood. But the game just has an outline, but you can't do that in Minecraft. Then for the special actions, I made the outlines with purple to emulate the purple nature of the special actions, and then I used moss for these. I have placed the corresponding number of power you need to spend for each special action above it, represented using candles. So because you need to spend 7 candles for this special action, I placed 7 candles, 5, 4, or 3, 3, and then 4, 3, 2 here. For the special actions, I chose the block that I felt most accurately represented what you got. So for example, terraforming steps, credits, knowledge, ore, and gaining power. Then for this area, I made it out of stone bricks, but it doesn't actually look like it because the vast majority of the space is spent on the standard tactile spaces. There's 3 at the bottom and then 6 across the top, 1 for each research column. And there are colorful dots with wires coming out of them on the board, so I used cobblestone and lots of candles to represent that. I made copies of all the different kinds of standard tactiles and put them in the dispensers. Luckily there were exactly 9, which is how many they can hold. Then there's dispensers for new ones, and they're on top of a hopper, so you can put them all back after the game is over. So you don't dispense one for yourself, you take the one that's in the item frame, and then you dispense a new one to put back in. And I alternated colors on these top ones to make them easier to distinguish the general shape, otherwise it all sort of blurred together. I was going to make all the columns the same color, so this would be the same block all the way from top to bottom, but I realized that on the actual board they go from darker to lighter, so I tried to emulate that pattern here. And I also emulated the rewards that you get. For example, when you research to level 1 in the terraforming column, you immediately gain 2 ore. And in the game, immediately gaining resources is signified by a white outline with a bright spot in the bottom left corner. So for that, I used lit candles. And when you go past level 2, in all of them, you get to charge 3 power. So that's what the purple candles represent. And then over here in the economics and knowledge columns, you gain the resources every round, so the candles are unlit to signify that. Then in the Gaia former column, you are supposed to gain a Gaia former when you reach the appropriate level. And then these signify the cost, so this one costs 6 to start a Gaia project, this one is 4, and then this one is 3. Then these are the spots for the advanced tactiles, as I showed before. And I have the resources you gain, so you gain a whole bunch of credits, power, and ore here, some knowledge here. You gain VP here, QIC here. You get the Lost Planet token, which I just used a Blackstone pressure plate for. And then here you have the Glean's Federation token. And I used invisible item frames for them so they wouldn't look as clunky as these. These are just more permanent, so I figured you could use regular item frames for those to denote their significance. And the QIC actions and the power actions have all of the action tokens that you use to cover them up when you have used one of them, so you can simply place this down to signify that they have been used. And I have the 7 cylindrical markers, or in this case I used banners, one for each of the research columns and then one for going around the board. There are a lot of little details that I included, like in this corner there's a diagram to signify that researching costs 4 knowledge, which I indicated with a glazed magenta terracotta block, which happens to have arrows on it. And then there is sort of a speckled gray and green area in the bottom left of each top area, so I put a mossy cobblestone there. But mostly they're the main color, and it looks like a bit of a weird shape, but ideally this entire 4x4 shape would be that block. Also, there's this green block here to denote the Gaia symbol, Gaia planet symbol in the Gaia forming column. And then there are these, I don't know what they are, I think they're test blocks, yes, to signify that this is the cost of starting a Gaia project. And that is the Gaia project research board build in Minecraft. Hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in the next episode. Peace!